A very good morning, dear students. Today we will learn a new lesson, carbon compounds. Now, the name is carbon compounds. That means you are going to learn about it in detail. You have learnt that there are so many elements, 118 elements are there. But then why only carbon we are learning? There are so many elements. Why we are not studying them? It's because you have learned last year that carbon compounds are, infinite in numbers. Infinite in numbers means there are so many compounds of carbon, which makes carbon to study is very important. Okay, because this carbon compound is found, or carbon is found in almost everything, every organic thing. Okay, organic, I'm using the word organic means living organisms. Okay, all the living organisms comprises of carbon. Okay, like for example, even foodstuffs what we eat, okay, fibers are made up of carbon, paper is made up of carbon, the medicines which are made, they are also made up of carbon, wood, fuel, okay, all these different things are made up of carbon. Okay, even the living organisms are made up of carbon. Therefore, living organisms are also called as organic in nature. Okay, so since they contain these substances are made up of the main element called as carbon, and this makes carbon a very important element. Okay, unlike other elements. Okay, there are so many elements, but carbon becomes more important because it is present in almost everything. Okay, except a few objects which are made up of either a metal or maybe a glass or maybe earthen objects which are made up of soil. Most of the products or things are made up of carbon. Fine. Now, so carbon becomes a very essential element in all the organic compounds. So carbon is the very essential element in all the organic compounds. Now, let me make it clear to you what is the difference between carbon compounds, organic compounds and hydrocarbon first only, so that there is no confusion in your mind that what is missing. When Miss is saying organic, sometimes Miss is saying hydrocarbon, sometimes she is saying carbon compounds. Now you see student, carbon compounds are any compound which contains carbon as one of its element, those are called as carbon compound. Like for example, I'll give you examples. CO2, that is carbon dioxide, carbon disulfide, carbon monoxide, methane which is CH4, then glucose C6H12O6. Okay, all these are CCl4, all these are what? Carbon compound. Now, which are called as organic compounds? In carbon compounds also you'll have organic compounds and inorganic compounds. Now, organic compounds according to definition is those compounds which consist of carbon and hydrogen. Okay, carbon and hydrogen. Now, I've given you examples like CO2, CO, CH4, C2H12, C6H12O6, that is glucose. Fine. So, from these, which are organic? Only those compounds which have C and H, that is carbon and hydrogen. So, which are coming now in that? CH4, which I have given an example, that is methane, and C6H12O6 is called as a carbon compound. Organic compound. Others are carbon compound, but they are not organic. Therefore, we say that carbon dioxide or carbon disulfide or maybe carbonate soil, that is CO3, Na2CO3, sodium carbonate you have learned, sodium bicarbonate you have learned. They are carbon compounds, but they are not organic compounds because they do not contain hydrogen in them. Fine. Then next is, what are hydrocarbons then? Hydrocarbons are those carbon compounds which only contains carbon and hydrogen, not any other element in them. They are called as hydrocarbon. Hydro itself means hydrogen, carbon means carbon. So hydrocarbons means those compounds which contain only hydrogen and only carbon, not any other element. Like for example, I have given you, now we have taken organic compounds. Now organic compounds, I have given you an example of glucose, that is C6H12O6, and one more I had given which contains carbon and hydrogen, that is methane. But in these two, what is the difference now between an organic compound and hydrocarbon? Now if you see glucose is C6H12O6, that means it contains oxygen also along with carbon and hydrogen. So that is not a hydrocarbon. Whereas methane, whose formula is only C and H, so CH4 becomes a hydrocarbon. So you have understood the difference between what are carbon compounds, what are organic compounds, and what are hydrocarbon. Organic compound, I just want to add one more thing. I have told you they are also made up of carbon and hydrogen, but I did not use the word only. Okay, that means they can have, along with carbon and hydrogen, other elements also like oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, anything. Fine. But along with that, carbon and hydrogen is a compulsion. Whereas hydrocarbons are only carbon and hydro. Only, I am using the word, stressing the word only, carbon and hydrogen. Fine. So you have understood, correct? So carbon compounds are all the compounds which contain carbon, but not all carbon compounds are organic, and not all organic compounds are also hydrocarbons. Fine. So it is, restricting hydrocarbons, restriction is there. Fine. So with this I will just proceed further, because you need to know all these differences. Fine, because I'll be using this word later on, like organic and hydrocarbon. So you have to know. Now last year you have learned about the carbon compounds like carbon dioxide and methane, correct? No? So among that, carbon dioxide and methane, carbon dioxide does not have hydrogen. So it is neither an organic compound nor a hydrocarbon. So it is just the carbon compound which is inorganic in nature. So they are not called as organic. Fine. So let's see now little further now. Okay, now around 200 years back, it was believed that organic compounds are obtained solely or directly or indirectly from the organisms. Okay, so around 200 years back, it was believed that organic compounds are obtained either directly or indirectly from the living organisms. But however, due to synthesis of the urea is one of the organic compound. Urea is one of the organic compound. You can see the formula of urea, which contains not only carbon and hydrogen, but along with it contains nitrogen and oxygen also. That is why I am not calling it as hydrocarbon, I am calling it as organic compound. So this organic compound urea was synthesized from an inorganic compound called as ammonium cyanide, and this you have studied, dear students, in your 9th standard textbook, science textbook, that Wohler was the scientist who synthesized this urea, which is organic in nature, from ammonium cyanide. And therefore now all the compounds having carbon as a constant element were later on called as carbon compounds. It got a new identity that organic compounds are also called as carbon compounds. Earlier it was 200 years back, it was believed that organic compounds are either directly or indirectly from the living organism. So let's proceed further now, dear students. Fine. Now therefore you can see inorganic compounds of carbon. Okay, carbon compounds, there are two different types, organic as well as inorganic, that you have to remember. Now I have told you what is the meaning of organic and what is the meaning of inorganic. Inorganic compounds means they will have carbon but they will not have hydrogen. Okay, that you have to remember. So like that, the examples are, which are inorganic compounds are carbide salt, okay, carbonate salt, okay, then bicarbonate salt. Carbonate means CO3, bicarbonate HCO3, carbide means only C is present. Then carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. All these, though they are called as carbon compounds, but they are not organic compounds. Fine. Then let's proceed now. Now you have to know about the ionic and the covalent compounds. So let's study now bonds in carbon compounds. Okay, now bonds means what? A chemical compound due to the attraction between the atoms. Okay, a bond which is formed in a chemical compound due to attraction between the atoms or maybe ions or maybe molecules is called as a chemical bonds. And there are two different types of bonds called as the ionic bond and the covalent bond. Now what is an ionic bond? You have already learned this in the previous classes also. So I'll just give a statement here, nothing. So bond formed by either transfer of one or more electrons from one or more electron from one atom to another atom, that is transfer of electron or giving of electron. And second thing is by gaining of electrons is called as the ionic bond. In both these cases what is formed is an ion is formed. When electrons are given, okay, positive charges develop. So such ions will be called as positively charged ions or also called as cations. Whereas those which gains electrons, that means they increase in their negative charge, so they become negatively charged ions or also called as anions. And due to the force of attraction between them, due to the opposite charges, they form a bond, and that bond is called as an ionic bond. Let's see now what is covalent bond. Now covalent bond is the bond formed between the compounds wherein they do not form ions. Ions will be formed only when there is give or take of electron. But in the case of covalent bonds, there is no net charge formed. There is no positive or negative charge which is formed by these compounds. So how they are formed? It's because they are sharing electrons. They are not giving or taking. Therefore, the net charge does not increase or decrease here. They are just sharing the electron, and when they are sharing the electron, such that there is a bond formed here also. So that bond is called as the covalent bond. Okay. So in this chapter you will realize that carbon forms the covalent bond. It does never forms ionic bond. So let's study that first. Okay. Now you have studied last year or why in this lesson before previous lesson only, if you see on page number 99, melting and boiling points of the ionic compounds are given. So ionic compounds are formed due to strong electrostatic force of attraction between the oppositely charged ions, and therefore you can realize that these opposite charges are so strong that the bond formed between them will be very strong. And since the bond formed between them will be strong, their melting and boiling points are very high. Okay, for example, over here it is given of the NaCl, that is NaCl, sodium chloride, which is an ionic compound, has melting point. It melts around 801 degrees Celsius. Correct. So that means it is very strong, and its boiling point is more than that, that is 1413 degrees Celsius. So you can see the melting and boiling points of ionic compounds is so high. Okay, why? Because the bond which is formed between them is very strong. Correct. Now here you can see on page number 19, and you can see the table which is given of the melting and boiling points of the some ionic compounds. In that you will realize that all of them have very high melting and boiling points comparatively to that of the covalent bonds. Also in when you have learnt last year that in their molten state, that means when they melt or in their dissolved state, what do? They conduct electricity. Okay, they conduct electricity. Why they conduct electricity? It's because in their molten state now, molten means what? Bond has broken in between the suppose sodium chloride we take. Bond has broken between the sodium and chlorine, and once the bond breaks, what will happen? They form their ions, respective ions. Sodium will form sodium ion, that is Na plus, and Cl will form Cl minus ions. And again now, since there are oppositely charged ions, through electrolysis you can find that they can conduct electricity. Okay, this experiment has been done in the 9th standard, that these ionic compounds which dissociates into their respective ions can conduct electricity. This you have learnt last year. So they can do this either in their dissolved state, that is when you dissolve them in water dissociates the respective ions, or maybe in their molten state. Like for example, when sodium chloride is molten, it is also called as a fused state, if you remember. Okay. So in the liquid or molten state, these compounds are even good conductors of electricity. That is regarding the ionic compound. And even of course you have already studied now in the previous chapter about the properties of ionic compounds based on the ionic bonds formed between them. Okay, so this is regarding ionic compound. Let's talk about now the our covalent compounds. Now how is their melting and boiling point? Now the melting and the boiling point of generally of the covalent compounds is less as compared to that of the ionic compounds. Now you can see a table is shown over here where in all the organic compounds are shown here, that is methane, CH4, whose melting point is very less, okay, below the freezing point, that is minus 183 degrees Celsius, and its boiling point is, you see, minus 162 degrees Celsius, so which is very less. Ethane also, if you see, minus 117 degree and boiling point is 78 degrees Celsius. Chloroform, you see, chloroform is also an organic solvent, okay, so which is mostly organic in nature, so minus 64 degrees Celsius and 61 is its boiling point. Acetic acid, you see, 17 degree and 118 degree. So if you see over here in all these cases, you'll find that their boiling and melting points are less than 300 degrees Celsius, whereas in ionic compound it's just the opposite. It starts almost close towards the what is that, 300 degrees Celsius, and here it is below 300 degrees Celsius. So from this what you can conclude? From this you can conclude that the bonds which are formed by covalent sharing of electrons is not very strong like that of the ionic bond. So ionic bond, it requires a lot of energy to break the bond, but in the case of covalent bond, the intermolecular forces of attraction are weak in carbon compound, because here there is no positive and negative charge which is developed. Because of positive and negative charge in the case of ionic compound, what happens there? It is the bond is very fast. Unlike charges always attract each other. So here there are no ionic ions formed here, and therefore the bond which is formed by sharing of electron, also called as covalent bond, is not strong because the intermolecular forces of attraction between them are very weak in carbon compounds. Fine. So this is regarding the introduction part of the of the carbon compound. Let's proceed further little bit. Okay, now you have done this experiment in the previous grade, that is the 9th standard, about taking different compounds. Okay, when you were studying acids and bases lesson, acid, bases and salts, in that you have seen that several acids and several bases you have taken and several salts you have taken to find out whether the electricity is passing through them or not, whether they dissociate in their liquid form, that is in the dissolved state, or maybe in their molten state. So you have learned about the sodium chloride, copper sulfate solution, then glucose solution, urea, sulfuric acid and sodium hydroxide solution, and you have found that you can see that the bulb is glowing in sodium chloride, copper sulfate, not in the case of glucose, it does not light. Urea also it is not lighting. Then in the case of sulfuric acid it is lighted, and in the case of sodium hydroxide also it is lighted. Now all these compounds in which a bulb has lit, so it is because they are ionic compounds, and you have just learned that ionic compounds are good conductors of electricity, correct? Whereas if you see glucose solution, there is no bulb glowing there. That means the glucose, whose formula is C6H12O6, okay, is an organic compound, and organic compound are what? Carbon compounds, which are formed by covalent bonding. So intermolecular forces of attraction are very weak, and therefore it does not conduct electricity because it does not dissociate into its respective ion. The same way in the case of urea is also an organic compound, so also it does not what is that? It does not conduct electricity. Next, we will move on to the next part of the lesson. Let's see now. Generally, most of the carbon compounds are bad conductors of electricity. That you have to remember. Okay. Now let's see the background of bond formation by carbon. What is the background behind the bond which is formed in the carbon? Whether it is ionic bond, as I mentioned, it is not, or whether it is a covalent compound, that is by sharing of electron. Let's see now. Now the driving force behind the formation of a bond, always remember, driving force for them to to form a bond, there has to be a force. And what force is there behind them? Always remember, an atom as a whole requires to be in its stable condition. Okay, so there are only few elements which shows this property, that is noble gases. Now noble gases, all of them have a stable state. Why? Because the outermost shell or their valence shell is fully complete. Okay, whether it may be a duplet as in the case of helium, or maybe in the octet state as in the case of the other elements, that is neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon. All these are called as noble gases. Why? Because they have attained, they are stable. Stable, why? Because the octet is complete, and every atom needs to attain the stable state. Okay, by either gaining electron or losing electron, or maybe by sharing electrons. Now let's see in the case of carbon what type of a stable state it has, whether by giving electron or taking electrons or by sharing electrons. Now carbon, if you see, carbon has atomic number 6. Correct? So its electronic configuration will be 2, 6. That means there are 2 electrons in the K shell and 4 electrons in the L shell. So that means to complete the valence shell, that is L shell, there are only 4 electrons, and it requires to complete its octet. That means it requires to take 4 electrons. Correct? This is one. Or it can give these 4 electrons and attain a stable state of helium, that is 2. Okay, or by taking electrons it attains a stable state of neon. Let's see how it is having its stable state, whether by giving 4 electrons and attain a stable state of helium, that is 2, or by gaining 4 electrons and attaining the stable state of neon, or by sharing of 4 electrons and attaining the stable state of neon, that is 8 electrons. Let's see now. So let's see the first one. Okay, first truth: to attain the configuration of a noble gas helium by losing one after another all the 4 electrons. Is it possible for carbon or not? Let's see. You can see that there is a picture of a carbon here, and it needs to give these 4 electrons one by one. Now imagine carbon is a small atom. It has only 2 shells, that is first K shell and L shell. So it is a small atom. And remember, dear students, to give electrons it requires lot of energy. Now to give 1 electron itself, it has to spend a lot of energy, and being small in size, carbon cannot afford to lose so much of energy. Fine. Let's see now if it is attaining this. In this, what happens when they are losing 1 by 1 electron? What happens is that the net positive charge on the carbon atom goes on increasing during the loss of every electron. How positive charge is increasing? Suppose now carbon has 6 electrons and 6 protons are there. Since 6 electrons are there, 6 protons also will be there. Correct? So these 6 electrons, out of which 4 electrons in the valence shell. So these 4 electrons, suppose they are going out. That means it has to spend energy. 1 electron has gone. So 3 electrons are remaining. So total how many? 5 electrons are remaining. But net positive charge is 6. Correct? Again another is going. So now it becomes what? How many electrons are remaining now? Out of 6, 5 are already there. Then 4. So how many electrons are there now? 4 electrons. Okay? 2 plus 2, 4 electrons are only remaining. And net positive charge is how much? Plus 6. Correct? So here you see, after losing all the 4 electrons to attain the helium stable state, that is of 2 duplet, what will happen? Net positive charge will increase. Net positive charge will increase, which requires more energy every time, and the task becomes more difficult. Moreover, C4 plus ion cannot exist. The energy is required to lose the next electron, which makes the task more difficult, and therefore it becomes unstable in spite of the noble gas configuration. Because the net positive charge over a small atom, which has now even lost that one more shell, okay, becomes very small, and so net positive charge is more, and therefore what happens? Cation becomes unstable in spite of its noble gas configuration, and therefore it becomes a small in size with high net charge, and therefore carbon atom does not follow this route to attain a stable gas configuration of helium. This is one. Here it has to spend a lot of energy to balance the net charge. as its size is also small after losing electron. So it does not follow this route. Let's see if it is following the next route, second route. To attain the stable electronic configuration of the noble gas neon by accepting one by one as the 4 electrons in the valence shell. Let's suppose now it has to accept electron, gain electrons. Now what will happen when they gain electron? The net negative charge will go on increasing. So one by one it is taking now electrons. So one by one it is taking 4 electrons. Then the net negative charge on the carbon atom will go on increasing while accepting every new electron. So whenever it is accepting every new electron, more energy is required for accepting the next electron by overcoming the increasing repulsive force. There will be a repulsive force because number of electrons have increased and the number of positive charge, that is which can hold, 6 protons are there which hold 6 electron. Now suppose one is increased, okay fine, it can hold one. If only one is accepted, it can hold, but then it has to complete its octet. That means it will go on accepting, suppose. So it takes now 4 electrons. That means altogether how many electrons are there now? 10 electrons. Okay, 6 plus 4, 10 electrons. But how many protons are there? Only 6. So these 6 protons which are there cannot hold 10 electrons, and therefore what will happen? The repulsive force between them will increase, and because of this again it will become unstable. So even the C4 anion ultimately formed, if suppose it is formed, then it will be again unstable. Fine, and therefore it is difficult for the nuclear charge plus 6 to hold 10 electrons, and therefore this carbon atom does not follow this route to attain the noble gas configuration. So there is only one option for carbon now, that is what? Sharing of electrons. So the third step is to attain the electronic configuration of the neon by sharing 4 electrons of the valence shell with 4 valence electrons of some other atoms. Okay, for this what happens in this method? 2 atoms share their valence electrons with each other. Here any 2 atoms, okay, one is carbon and second one can be any other atom. So here 2 atoms will be sharing their valence electrons with each other. Okay, and so when they are sharing valence electron with each other, valence shells of both the atoms now overlap. You can see in the case of methane here, which is CH4, here 2 atoms of which? Carbon and hydrogen, and hydrogen also requires to complete its duplet by taking gaining 1 electron, but it also cannot gain that 1 electron or give 1 electron like that. So what it does, it shares with carbon. So these 2 atoms are sharing, and when they are sharing, always remember the valence shell is indicated by that sharing is indicated by overlapping of the valence shell. So here you can see valence shells of both the atoms overlap and accommodate these shared electrons. As a result, both the atoms will have a noble gas configuration without generating any net charge. Here there is no net charge because there is no give or take of electron, or positive or negative charge is not increasing here. They are only what? Doing sharing of electrons, and this sharing is shown by the overlapping of the valence shell, not all the shell, only the valence shell. Okay, so you can see that atoms over here in this case, since there is no net charge, they remain electrically neutral and attains stability. Okay, so they have attained now stability by sharing of electrons. So of a nearby element. Okay, like for example carbon, it once it shares its 4 electrons with other atom. Okay, it has gained, if you see outermost electron, if you outermost valence shell, you can see that there are 8 electrons. That means it has 8 plus 2, it has attained a stable state configuration of the neon, correct? So here there is formation of a bond, and this bond is called as covalent bond. Covalent bond is formed by sharing of electrons. So carbon atom adopts this route to attain a noble gas configuration of the neon. Fine. So the chemical bond formed by sharing of 2 electrons between the 2 atoms, 2 electrons between 2 atoms is called as covalent bond. Now, how covalent bond is represented? A covalent bond is represented clearly by drawing an electron dot structure. Now, this is something new for you which you have to practice now at home. What is this? This is called as electron dot structure. Now, here you can see a methane molecule. Formula of methane molecule is CH4. So, C in the center and H on 4 sides. Okay. So, how it is drawn? How you have to learn how to draw this. Now, you see carbon has 4 electrons. First, you draw carbon which is in the center, and you have to draw only the valence shell. Okay. You have to draw only the valence shell in which 4 electrons are there. So, 4 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, it can be represented by the dots. Carbon atom can be represented by the dots, and it shares 4 electrons with the hydrogen atom. Each hydrogen atom shares 1 electron. Each hydrogen atom shares 1 electron. So when it shares 1 electron like this, what happens is that you can see that with the cross it is shown. So this is also called, this type of structure is called as electron dot structure, wherein both hydrogen over here, in this case, in this compound, hydrogen is also has attained a stable state configuration of the helium, and carbon has attained the stable state of neon. Correct? So both, if you see, in the case of hydrogen it is a duplet, it gets 2 electrons, it has 2 electrons, and carbon has all its 8 electrons. So this way electron dot structures helps you to know how the compound is formed. So covalent bond is represented clearly by then how is this structure, how you have to learn this. So covalent, in this method, a circle is drawn around the atomic symbol. You can see a circle is drawn about atomic symbol. Carbon, circle is drawn around it. Fine. And each of the valence electron is represented either by a dot or maybe by a cross. Now the covalent bond formed between the atoms, okay, is indicated by showing the circle around the atomic symbols crossing each other. Now here you can see 4 covalent bonds are formed, and here you can see 2 circle of hydrogen and carbon at 4 different places. So wherever these 4 different places overlapping or crossing is shown, that is called as one covalent bond. So here single bond is formed, but there are 4 single covalent bonds. Now let's see now what is that single and double. Now the shared electrons are shown in the overlapping regions. You can see shared electrons are shown in the overlapping regions. Dot of the carbon and cross of the hydrogen. Fine. And the electron dot structure is also drawn without showing the circle in this manner. Okay. In this manner also you can see, instead of drawing the circles, it can be also shown electron dot structure, like on which is shown just below methane molecule. You can see that electron dot structure without showing circles. So this is called as without showing circles. Also just you have to put the dots like this 4 sides. That is also electron dot structure without drawing circles. That you have to remember. Or it can be shown by even simply drawing the straight lines. These straight lines indicates that it's a bond formed. Okay. Now, how much, how many electrons are there in one bond? That you have to remember. For that you have to know that one pair of shared electrons constitute one covalent bond. See, one pair constitutes one covalent bond, and one pair means 2 electrons. That means if there are 2 electrons shared by each of the 2 atoms, that will constitute one bond or single bond. So here you can see, in the case of methane, it has 4 single bonds, because at each hydrogen, wherever it is overlapping with carbon, you can see 2 electrons or a pair of electrons. So that one pair of electron is one single bond. That means when 4 electrons are shared or 2 pairs of electrons are shared, it will constitute how many bonds? Yes, you are right, it will be a double bond. And when it is 3 plus 3, that means 6 electrons are shared or 3 pairs of electrons are shared, how many bonds it will be? Of course, it will be triple bond. So, bonds also are single bond, double bond and triple bond. That you have to remember. And one single bond comprises of one pair of shared electrons. Right? Let's proceed now. So, line structures I have told you, even this structure bond can be shown, covalent bonds can be shown by line structure also. One line means one bond, you can remember. One line means one single bond. If two lines are there means it's a double bond. Three lines are there, it is a triple bond. So it can be shown by dot structure or it can be shown by a line structure. So dot structure is called as electron dot structure and line structure is called as structural formula. Like for example, methane molecule which is shown is a line structure. So it's a structural formula of methane. Let's now move little further with some examples, like more of the covalent compound. So hydrogen molecule. Hydrogen molecule is formed by covalent bonding. Okay, how it is formed, let us see. Now hydrogen, it has atomic number 1. That means it requires one electron to complete its duplet. Okay, then how does this hydrogen atom does this? So hydrogen atom cannot give one electron because it requires lot of energy, neither it can accept one electron. So what it can go for, it to meet this required, two hydrogen atoms share electrons with each other to form a hydrogen molecule, that is H2. You can see they are sharing these electrons by formation of the bond between them, that is covalent bond, and the formula now become hydrogen molecule. Therefore hydrogen does not exist as hydrogen atom, it will be always in its molecular state, that is H2 molecule. Whenever we write also hydrogen, we will write it as H2. Why, you must have understood now, because it has to have its stable state. So for that stable state, it only combines with itself and then it forms the hydrogen molecule. So you can see the covalent bond, and it is a single bond here because there is only one pair of electrons. That means two electrons are shared between each other. So there is a single bond. Let's take an example of the oxygen atom now. Oxygen, its atomic number is 8. That means there are 6 electrons in its valence shell. That means it requires 2 electrons to complete its octet. So instead of, here oxygen molecule is formed how? By sharing of electron. How it shares, you can see it shares 2 pairs of electrons, that is 2 of the one oxygen atom and 2 of another oxygen atom, and then becomes 4 electrons. So whenever when you see the octet, you can count that each overlap is 8 electron this side and 8 electron this side. So it has satisfied a stable state. So now oxygen atom, 2 oxygen atom combines to form an oxygen molecule by having 2 bonds, that is also called as double bond. Then let's move on to the next one, nitrogen atoms. Its atomic number is 7. So that means it has 5 electrons in its outermost shell. So it requires 3 electrons to complete its octet. So what it does, when nitrogen combines with another nitrogen atom, it forms a nitrogen molecule, N2 molecule. But here what happens, this 3 electrons are shared by 3 electrons of the other atom. One atom shares 3 electrons with another nitrogen atom, and in this way they form a nitrogen molecule. But since there are 3 pairs shared, what is the bond formed which is here? The bond which is formed over here is triple bond. So N2 molecule has triple bond, oxygen has double bond, and hydrogen has single bond. So this way bonds are formed by sharing of electron. These are all covalent bond. Hydrogen molecule is covalent bonding, oxygen is also covalent bonding, nitrogen is also covalent bonding. But in hydrogen we have learned it is single bond, oxygen it is double bond, nitrogen it is triple bond. Let's see now. You can see double bond of the oxygen. One oxygen atom is shown with the dots, another oxygen with a cross, and it forms by sharing 2 pairs of electron, double bond. Whereas nitrogen, you can see one nitrogen shown with the dots, another nitrogen with a cross, and when they share 3 pairs of electrons, it forms a triple bond. Okay, in the case of nitrogen. Let's move on to the further part. Now you have learned about the carbon compound called as methane last year, which is a very important natural gas. It is also called as a marsh gas because mostly found in the marshy land, and you know that it is very important as a domestic fuel. Gobar gas, what we say, or biogas, what we call, is nothing but can be used as a domestic fuel, also as an industrial fuel. Okay, then let's learn about its Now carbon, you know, 4 electrons it requires. I've already explained to you about the formation of the covalent compound in the case of methane. So you can understand that each of the 4 hydrogen atoms shares its 4 electrons with carbon, and they form CH4 molecule on the 4 sides. Line structure, you can see the dot structure, electron dot structure here, and line structure, how it is asked in your textbook. The same way electron dot structure you can see, and line structure also of the methane you can see. Let's proceed further. Let's take now an example. Use your brain power. This question is there. Atomic number of chlorine is 17. What is the number of electron in the valence shell of the chlorine? So you know atomic number is 17, that it will be 2, 8, 7 electrons, so electronic configuration. So in the outermost shell or in the valence shell, there are 7 electrons, and therefore it requires 1 electron to complete its octet. So when chlorine combines with chlorine atom, okay, so 2 electrons of chlorine are shared with each other. So chlorine molecules is formed by sharing of 2 electrons, okay. So and it forms a double bond. You can see it forms a double bond. Next, sharing of 1 electron by each of the 2 chlorine atom completes the octet both of the chlorine atoms, and therefore you can see double bond, single bond, because it shares only 1 pair of electron, only 1 pair, because it requires 1 electron to complete its octet. So it shares 1 pair of electron, and therefore it forms the chlorine molecule by a single bond. Then you can see chlorine atom, a single bond is formed, and line structure of the chlorine, then line structure as well as the electron dot structure by sharing 1 pair of electrons. So this is regarding chlorine. Then what about water molecule? 2 hydrogen atoms require 1 electron each to complete their duplet. Okay, 2 hydrogen requires 1 electron each. So there are 2 hydrogen, that means each one of them will require 1 electron. So what it does, it shares with oxygen, which requires 2 electrons to complete its octet, and therefore they have the structure, electron dot structure, like this, by sharing 2 and 2 electrons like this, but towards 2 different sides. So it has single bond between H, this side, H, this side, and you can get a electron dot structure with a single bond, line structure you can see. Fine. Then we have ammonia. Ammonia and nitrogen, you have understood now that it requires 3 electrons, so it can share with anyone. Like nitrogen molecule, it shares with nitrogen itself. Here it is sharing with hydrogen. Hydrogen requires 1, nitrogen requires 3. So like that, 3 hydrogen will be sharing 1 electron each with the nitrogen atom to complete nitrogen's octet and hydrogen's duplet. Fine. Next. So this is the line structure of the nitrogen and electron dot structure of the ammonia. Not nitrogen, sorry, ammonia. Okay, this you can see. Then carbon dioxide molecule. Carbon requires 4 electrons, oxygen requires 2 electrons. So 2 oxygen atoms, when it shares with carbon, it forms how many bonds? This side 2 bonds, this side 2 bonds, altogether double bond it forms on both the sides, and you can see the covalent bonds which are formed by double bond. And you can see, because the 2 pairs of electrons are shared, that means 4 electrons are shared, so double bond is formed on both the sides, this side 2, this side 2. Okay, and this is regarding the sulfur molecule, how sulfur molecule is existing in its ring form. So it also shares its electron with each of the sulfur atom. Okay, so this is regarding the first part of the lesson, that is background of the bond formation by carbon. So next time we will learn about carbon, a versatile element. I hope so you have understood. I was a bit faster because the topic is too long and I had to speak within few minutes. That is why I have talked very fast. So just pause and again hear if you are not understanding. So thank you, dear students. Till then I will meet you in the next topic, that is versatile element carbon.